Everything you need to know for Managebac to get you through anything on this list.
I found the original email, and I'm just going to forward it or reply all and send it again.
Okay.
And it has all the documents that she sent. It was October 3rd, first is when she sent it the first time.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so to do a unit plan, you can start making one with me if you want to right now. If you want to add another one, you can do that too. You have to go to classes and you have to have created a class. If you go to classes and hit it, if you're brand new and you haven't done anything, then you can, when you hit the word classes, it'll come up as create a new class. You'll hit that button and it'll want you to name it and tell you what subject it goes in and all that stuff. It's really important to make sure you choose a subject in the Dropbox. There's been a lot of people, it's been a common troubleshoot that a lot of people haven't chosen the subject. It must be like right under a heading that's not clear to see, and it'll put you in English automatically as a default. And so then everyone gets in and starts seeing everybody's English stuff and then they get confused. So make sure that when you go to add a new class, I can do this, then we're going to put MYP, or IB middle years. Then when you do that, if you don't do that, then that Dropbox doesn't come up. But once you do middle years, and you tell it grade 9 or 10, and then you select your subject, and then you can fill out the rest how you want. So once you've created a class, then you can do a unit. But you can't grade until you've got kids in. But I'll go through that too. So once you hit classes and you've chosen a class, then all your class settings come up right here in the gray. And then you'll go to units. Let me preface this by saying there's a lot more stuff or options that Managebac gives you to put into a unit than what is required by IB. So if you look at the unit plan that's in that you find online in your guide, or the one I've given you, or the one I gave you when we went to the Botanical Gardens that day, there's more than that on Managebac. So that's all optional, but you want to make sure you get as many things filled out as you can. So if I go to my units, this is all the units in the science department. So I said you're automatically sharing those. So I can scroll down and find one of mine. I'll do the latest one. Let me do one this. Okay, so when I go there, if you haven't done one at all, it'll have a create a unit or start a new unit in the right hand corner. I'm going to edit my unit. So the way that it has it organized is you have these 6 tabs right here, and it's going to work you through each tab. So if you're wanting to go back and forth or look at something or work on something specific, you have to hit the tab. If you just keep hitting next, it's just going to keep you going down the tabs. Okay. So the first part is the inquiry and purpose, and this is the first part that these first 2 tabs is what I would like for you to have done for that started unit. Okay, so the 3 that I would like you to start and have done by Friday when you go home, so that we can do our report, would be these first 2 tabs. So this one is, real easy. You just give me a title. You can be really creative and come up with something that will catch the kids' eye. I tell it the subject, I tell it the week I started on and how many weeks I want that to be. And you're thinking of a unit as being at least 4 weeks. I would say 3 weeks is kind of too short. But we're talking a month or 2. Okay, so it can be a big chunk of information. And then what grade is it? And I can save it as a draft. Please don't save it as a draft, because then it disappears and it's hard to undraft it. And there's no reason for you to have to worry about having an uncompleted unit. No one cares that your unit is incomplete. You know what I mean? So once you do that, then you hit next. You can save your changes. Okay, let's make it.
It automatically saves?
Yeah. And then, so it says up here your unit has been successfully updated, so that tells you it updated it. And then you get to the part that Managebac makes easy. You've got key concepts, related concepts, and global context. Those are the 3 things that you've got to choose from a group of words that's going to relate to your unit the best. And before, remember people that have been here for a while, that day in the library, I had everyone get their guide out, and we tabbed all the different things you would have to go to and see. Well, for Managebac, it gives it all to you right there, so you don't have to go search for the group of words that you have to choose from. So this group of words, these are key concepts. These are all the same for everyone, all the subjects. And they have a couple that are bolded. Change is bold. Relationships are bold. Systems are bold. Those are ones they want you to use often. But they want you to try to use as many as you can throughout a year. And you're just choosing one. Okay? So a lot of people, when I'm looking at units you've done so far this year, one of the things that people are doing is choosing way too many. And you're making it harder on yourself. Okay? So just choose one of these key concepts. And whichever one you think that's going to fit the best with what you're trying to teach. So I'm just going to check the box, and I'm going to move on. Then you've got related concepts, same thing. You're just checking from a group of words. You're choosing 2 or 3 related concepts, and you just want to check the box. And once again, you're just checking things you think are going to naturally go with what you're trying to teach. But the thing to remember is you're going to have to use these words in a statement shortly. So the more you pick, the more words you have to try to get in a statement. Then you've got your global context, and there's only 6 of those. Once again, you just pick one, and the one that you feel like is going to fit the best. Now, this is what the second hardest thing about a unit is, to make your statement of inquiry. So between all those words you just picked, you need to make a statement. And this is the big deal for NYP. This is what's going to force you to take how you would normally teach this subject or this topic and teach it the NYP way. So before, I would just teach Intro to Biology as like, okay, here's what biology is, here's why I think it's important, here's some lab safety stuff, let's talk about the common themes of biology, and let's move on. This made me teach that the kids' perspective on science and technological innovation will help them to form their own opinions about their everyday environment. So it took what I would have normally taught as just an intro to biology and made it way more relative to the student than what I would have done before. So that's the whole point of NYP, is trying to guide you through the unit plan to take what you already do but make it relative to the student in this environment, this global way. So you don't have to use the exact word. You can use a form of the word or a synonym to the word, or the statement can have that feeling. But they want you to use as close to the words as possible. So that for me is a really hard thing, and it has to be really, really broad. If you make it really narrow, it's going to be really hard. It has to be something really broad that you could come back to it any time during that unit, or it can be so broad that you could come back to it, like I could relate to everything I teach in biology, which is true. That would be easy for me to bring back to any time during the year. So that's the goal.
And Emily, I'm sorry, you may have already said this.
That's fine.
I'm sure you have. You need to use the words that you chose where?
And those three groups of words that we just went through. So one
Related
of these
concepts.
So you've got your global context, one of these 6. Okay.
Okay.
One of these right here, the related concepts, and those are different for each subject. That's why they're related. So mine are going to be different from yours, and you'll find that they're going to be things that are going to relate to your class more than mine are. And then one of these key concepts.
So the words you chose when you chose your concept.
Yep. Concepts and contexts, I guess you could
Okay.
say. Okay? So 3 groups of words. And like I said, you can do more than 2 or 3 words, but it's going to just make it kind of hard. Okay? All right, so once you've done that, then the rest of it's going to flow except for the task. These are inquiry questions. This is another thing that I was seeing as a misconception when I'm looking through one's units since the beginning of the year. They want you to have 3 kinds of questions, at least one. At least one conceptual question, at least one factual question, and at least one, conceptual, factual, and debatable. Yeah. And it'll show you, if you haven't put any questions in yet, or you want to add a question, you can add it right here. Then it'll give you a little box for you to pick. Is it factual, conceptual, or debatable? So you write your question, and then you can just hit which one it is. And you just need, the minimum is 1 of each kind of question. But these are questions that are more specific, go, exactly to a specific topic that you're teaching. These are probably more like, something similar to the questions you're actually gonna have on the board. And you can put as many as you want in
I was
there.
about to say, you can put as many as you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to limit it to those
Uh-huh.
three. Okay.
Yeah, and it pretty much depends on how my unit is broke down, like how many topics I'm teaching under that unit. Because sometimes I have 5 questions, and sometimes I feel like I could do 10, or 3 may be good. So whatever you think. And you have to remove this before it'll let you go on if you didn't write anything. Okay, the assessment. This is the hardest thing for me to build a unit. And then all the rest of this, the backwards planning, the resources, the reflections, that's much easier. Here's the deal with the tasks. We have to, as a building, every person in the building has to assess their NYP kids 8 times in a year. Everyone has 4 rubrics. They're all out of 8. So you want to use each rubric twice at a minimum. Okay? So I'm going to have 8 units, such as how my book or my book is going to be easiest to do. So I'm going to try to at least do 1 NYP task per unit. But if you're going to have 6 units, you think, or you're not real sure yet, then you probably should try to do at least 2 tasks in a couple of those units to help cover yourself. And this is what is hard, because I haven't been teaching that long, and it's already hard for me to take something I've only done for 4 years and say it's not good enough. So it's really, this is what makes it hard. I look back at the tasks that I would normally do with my kids, and every single one of them, all year long, never is reaching the highest level on the rubric, no matter which rubric I look at. So, so when you're making a task, here you'll have tasks, it'll say to add a task, but once you go to a task, it'll give you the rubric that you chose to grade it with. And you want to, this is the dinger right here, you want to design your task so that the kids can reach this highest level, the 7 through 8 level right here. So I always start by reading the highest level of all 4 of my rubrics and then saying, okay, what's something I can think of that's going to go along with something maybe I have done and I can just beef it up, or I'm going to have to completely start from scratch, which has been the case normally for me, that is going to allow the kids to reach this highest level. And a lot of times I'm thinking, gosh, none of my kids are going to be able to do that. And I guess that's just me underestimating my kids. Because in the tasks that I have done where I've done this, 60% of them have reached that level, and I thought that they couldn't do it. So my advice to you is look at what the task, the big project or task, if it's a test or it's a presentation or it's a lab or whatever it is, look at what you would already do in your class before NYP and see if you can use that task, if it allows them to reach that highest level, or you can beef it up and change it up to make it reach the highest level, or you're going to have to kind of start from scratch, which has been the case for me, like I said. So once you've gotten kids in, you can go to this little, it'll give you this little grade book button right there on the right. And here's all my kids in my class, and to grade them, all I have to do is there's a NA, so they weren't here, they didn't do it, and then a 0 through 8. And I just hit the number, and it's done, it's saved. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean, which is real easy to do, say, okay, well, in this unit that I'm about to finish because I didn't do a task, this kid to me is about a 6 out of 8. And that's what I did sometimes last year when I had forgotten to do a task. But it's very important to have given them the rubric first, before you assign them the task, of course, and then as you're grading their task, have the rubric in front of you and give them the grade. What I found to be really easy is, when we do presentations, I just have this in front of me and the rubric's right there, and as they're doing their presentation, I give them the grade. Next person stands up, they're doing their presentation, I'm reading the rubric, I give them the grade. Next, and I can always give them a comment, and then here are my 4 rubrics, and it's going to give me a bar. So every time that Daniel is graded on an NYP task, it'll give me a bar so I can see if I'm lacking anywhere. It's like kind of even. Because for me, knowledge and understanding, and math's going to be the same way, knowledge and understanding is like our go-to rubric every time. And it's real easy to use that one. I can throw in a test and grade it with knowledge and understanding. I can do a presentation real easily. But it's going to be real hard for me to come up with something to do these two. This processing, evaluating, and inquiry. B and C, I have to, at least once, as a science person, do a lab where I'm grading them on this one and this one. And this one is designing their own lab from scratch. Okay, let's just take that in for a second. These are ninth graders.
And it's once per semester.
Once per semester, yeah. Okay? And then I have to process the data and evaluate the data and give a conclusion. So basically this means full lab report once a semester for my ninth graders, which I do for my diploma program kids. And this is just a mini version of it, because if you look at my diploma program rubric, this is the exact same thing, just dumbed down for the ninth graders. So that's, I mean, obviously that's what they're trying to get us to
Make it
do.
a lot easier when they get to the diploma.
Exactly, so that's what they're trying to make us do, is get them ready for the diploma program accurately.
Miss Abel, should
Yeah.
you use the word dumb down?
I did.
I was just wondering.
But this helps you keep it as even as possible, because you will see like one of those four is going to be a go-to rubric, and the other you're going to find at least one or two that's going to be harder for you. That's just how it is in all the subjects. This one's easy. It's reflecting on impacts of science. So this is something I wouldn't normally do. I'd be like, oh, we're done. We have everything ready for the benchmark. Great. I'm not spending any more time on this. I'm moving on. But this one makes me have to go back with them and then pick out something they learned and do something with it, which I wouldn't have spent time to do with if I wasn't an NYP teacher and I didn't have to do this. But they picked something from the unit that impacted them, the problem, how science is solving it, and this one also talks about documenting sources, which is a really big thing that I haven't done as a 9th and 10th grade teacher. I worry about that more in the 11th and 12th grade. So once again, these rubrics are making me do things I wouldn't normally do.
And as a little heads up, when they come in April and May,
Yeah.
they're gonna ask to see the student work. So hang on to that stuff. You know, they're gonna ask to see what was the task, the description of the task, some samples of student work, maybe a high, a medium, and a low sample. I would
Yeah.
always keep at least one high, one medium, and one low level sample of work. And they can, if it's like a PowerPoint or a presentation or, you know, a paper, they can, you can keep it on Managebac.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell. You can't save it on Managebac for them, but every kid in this building already has a login and password to Managebac, and I can tell you what it is if you want to get your kids on there. But they can go in and upload it. They can upload it as a Word document if you have them type out something, or you could, you know, however you want to do it, you could keep them all in Managebac instead of having to keep a folder on all of them.
I did mine for the past 2 days. I did a writing assessment for it. Was a reading comprehension assessment for it.
Okay.
And I did it, well, I wasn't paying attention to Managebac, but actually, it helped me out today with my 3rd block class. I went in, put it in, they did it, they sent me it, and then I'm about to go back in and grade it and do everything else. But it helps it out though, because it does keep it there for you.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about keeping it. But like she said, if you are going to keep it, if it's something that you can't put in Managebac, or you're going to have to scan a bunch of stuff in, you can still scan it in and save it. But you really do, at a minimum, just need probably five samples, some high, some medium, and some low. So you can just kind of pick a broad range of students, because we're not trying to impress them. We're trying to really show them what we have and what we've been doing. So don't think about the evaluation as you're going to have to put on a front and show that your kids are performing better than they are. They are not going to mind whatsoever to see some low performing kids at all. So we're not trying to impress them by any means.
And the instruction sheet is important there,
Yeah.
okay? They want to see that your instructions that you're giving the kids line up with your assessment of the kids. So use your rubrics to help you design your instructions so that it lines up and you're actually grading what you're supposed to be grading.
And the biggest thing, I think Emily spoke about it, is our assessments aren't rigorous enough. They don't allow for the student to reach that highest level, because the task itself doesn't allow for that. If you just give a paper and pencil test and they're supposed to communicate well to others or something, that's just not possible. So Yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah, like my knowledge and understanding, which I could give for a test, part of it, the bottom part of that rubric says they can do it in familiar and unfamiliar situations. So I was going to give them a lab safety test, and that'd be my assessment for my intro to biology. But I was going to have to completely change my lab safety test because it was just multiple choice. What's this picture? What's this name? That has nothing to do with familiar and unfamiliar situations. So I had to change my lab safety test to give them, situations in the lab and how they would deal with it. So I had to go just a little bit further with it, and it worked. But not 0% of my tasks all year long for the 7 years I've been teaching reached the highest level of the rubric.
I don't know if it's true for other subjects, but for language acquisition on the OCC website, you can look up and they have a document on moderation for assessments. And basically this tells you what they're looking for if you were to actually submit copies of their assessment work to the IB organization to moderate. And that's a good bouncing off point to find out, okay, is this exam following the assessment criteria I want it to?
And last year we had to do moderation and assessments. And so if you were one of those people that I came to you and said, I need 5 samples and I need you to fill this out, you know who you are. I have those reports. I have one for every subject. And on every report that I got back from the 5 samples of all of our subject area, every single time, the thing that they wrote about was we didn't have an outline, which is the syllabus, and we didn't have tasks that were designed to allow them to get to the highest level of the rubric. So that's going to be our 2 weak points that they look at when they come. The first one, easy. Make a syllabus that goes along with the outline. And that was the thing that we did at the very beginning of the year, and I can send that back out, especially for the new people. The other one's going to be the test. That's going to be the harder one, is redesigning your test to make this rubric work. So the rest of the unit, if I go back to the unit, and I'm about done here, it's about time to go.
Can you go to where it says learning experiences, like 3rd page or something?
Yeah, let me go back to my unit here. Edit. So we did the assessment. This is knowledge and skills. So you've got these tabs across the top, so you go through all these before you go on to the next tab here. Content, this is your, this is like all the course of study stuff. And the ones that are listed in here are not necessarily for our grade level. So what I do is I go to add knowledge and skills down here, and there's a box that pops up. I copy my course of study and paste it in that box. For science and for the core classes, you've already got I can statements that we've done, and I just take them off the pacing guide from the Huntsville City Schools website and put them on there. And then there's this is approaches to learning. These are life skills. So you've got communication skills, social skills, self-management, research thinking skills. Those are all called your ATLs. And so that's stuff that you will naturally help them with as you go through your unit. So you can think about what are some things that I can knowingly hit on that will help strengthen these skills through my unit. And you would just hit a couple of them. Learner profiles is optional, but I think it's really good. What learner profile attribute are you going to focus on in this unit? I think it's a very, very good idea for us to do a unit, and if you have 8 units-ish, then you'll cover them all in the year, because this is what we want our kids to be when this is all said and done. And then differentiation, this is for, what are you going to do within this unit to make sure that you're differentiating your teaching. And then learning and teaching, this is what Ms. Bird was just talking about. This is the learning experiences. How will students know what is expected of them? Will they see examples, rubrics, templates? How will students acquire the knowledge and practice the skills required? And do the students have enough knowledge? How will they know? Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to, on learning experiences and on teaching strategies here, because that's, how are you going to use formative assessment? What are your teaching methodologies? We talked about putting your lesson plans that you've created to go with this unit. Right now, you guys are using OnCourse. And I talked this over with Dr. Somerville. If you can, on your OnCourse, you can copy and paste those lessons. This will expand as many pages as you need it to expand right here. And I would put it in and then label it day 1, day 2, day 3, Dr. Somerville says if you get that detailed on the learning experiences, you're using Managebac completely for your units and for your lesson plans, then she wouldn't see another need to do lesson plans, that they're already on here. And then you cite, if you're asked for your lesson plans, you cite, I'm on this unit this day. And whoever your administrator is can go to that unit that day and see what your lesson is. And I think that's a real bonus, because once you've got it in, and it'll take a lot of upfront work, like all of this, then it's all right here. Everything that you need is right here. And then next year, when you work on it, you're just fixing it up rather than redoing it.
So is that what we're gonna be, that's what we can do now, is
But
just cite?
you-
So on
well-
course, we would cite where it's at?
No, you would not do on-course.
You
That would be the ultimate goal.
copy from on-course. Now, she's saying that once everybody's on board with this, and once the units, once you're using Managebac, because that's your tool, it's got all your unit information, and it will have, if you copy and paste from on-course, copy, paste your lessons here, then,
Is there any way we can just say that's where our lessons are now, instead of doing that copy?
well,
paste?
because they may not be there. What if Columbia decides not to do on-course next year?
Well, that's what I'm saying, can we not just do just this? I mean,
Yeah.
Because we're double
Yes.
doing it, we don't
Yeah.
want any more.
Well, if you want to just write your lesson plans on here, that's fine.
Okay, so we don't have to use on-course then?
But here's the thing, she's not saying that yet. She's saying once everybody's on board.
Yeah, so AKA if we all decide we're gonna do this and we can prove that we're all doing this, and we can get rid of on-course.
That's the thing. Everybody has to be on board. It's got to be happening. We got to be seeing it, and then it's a matter of.
For right now, but then like, if we all get on board with this and I'll do it, then we wouldn't have to copy and paste it off of on-course, we just put it there and not on-course.
So what about the 11th and 12th grade, what are they gonna use?
Which is,
This,
no, I have to tell you, this is an incredibly expensive program.
No, I
It's-
think
and it's a
let's
gift.
use that.
It's a gift.
Let's not use on-course and that.
Well-
Let's use one or the other.
And I think that once you've got them on here, that's a reasonable expectation. But until they're on here, we can't really expect that, so, in other words, tomorrow, if we say you don't have to do lesson plans, where are they gonna be looking for your lesson plans? They're not on here yet.
Or I mean,
after
They're
Friday,
not there yet.
maybe,
no,
we
what
could have everybody on
I'm
there.
saying is if you can say, okay, let's start doing this at the beginning of November, at the beginning of December, that would be great. I'm not gonna copy and paste. I'm gonna do either on course or I'm going to do that. That's the truth.
Okay, so maybe that's something we can talk to Somerville about. Maybe we can come to an agreement about if this happens, then we can stop doing this. Because I would love to just use this for everything. Instead of Edmodo, instead of on-course, just one program, one thing. Because I would much rather, and I don't know if everybody else does, but I would much rather sit down for 45 minutes, however long it takes you to do your unit, once you get good at it, once a month or every 2 months, and do it right, than do it for 30 minutes every Monday, or whatever, whenever you do it.
That's fine.
But we would have to be all in, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know.
Something to
So,
think about.
yeah. Resources, easy peasy. This is if you want to add where you're, the textbook that you're using, or if you're giving them a website, you can actually post the website there, and it'll show it straight up to the kids when they log on. You can put a YouTube video, you can put a file, you can put photos. So if you're a foreign language teacher and you want them to describe a photo, you can put it on there for that task. And then reflection and evaluation, this is the same as what we've been doing this whole time. You reflect before the unit, this is what I expect, this is what I'd like to happen. During the unit, this is not going well, this is going great. And then after the unit, I wish I would have done it this way. Next year, note to self, do it this way. So that's the last tab. So really, the first two tabs are where the hard part is. That's the meat of your unit. And then once you're done, it saves everything pretty much automatically, and it'll come up in the curriculum so anybody can see it if they want to see it, if they want to look at what you're doing and what days, and then you can easily kind of see where you could collaborate too. Because if I'm on this unit, then I can go and see if I want to collaborate with math. Okay, well, where do they teach, or what do they teach that's could go with this easily, and how could I make a unit out of it? So that's the other part of it. One of the other things on the checklist is that you have one collaborative unit a year minimum, and that can be with anybody you want that's from a different subject, and hopefully it would be like somewhat the same students, you know, so they would benefit from the collaboration. So everything on your checklist, like the first half of it is having to do with the things that we've gone over today. Okay. And like I said, this is like the ideal to-do list for the end of April, not right now. Okay?
Yay, boy.
Thanks.
Good job, Anna.
Okay.